Hello Weirdos of the Universe, I'd like to welcome you to Tuesday's video brought to you by Thursday and fatigue and an overly ambitious schedule. Now well, in a month the day job's gone, we'll have our act together. Today's You Want to Know topic was suggested by viewer and commenter Road Bike Culture, and that is, what happens to a dead body in space? Does it decompose? In space, your suit is a spaceship for one. If that spaceship fails, or you find yourself in space without one, you're in trouble. In a lot of sci-fi films, your body explodes. Most scientifically educated people know that's not true. You will get all puffy and you will pass out in about 15 seconds from lack of oxygen. Don't pant, you'll only make it worse. Don't hold your breath either, because your lungs will pop from the expanding gases. Probably not, because it's likely you won't physically be able to hold your breath. In fact, you won't be able to hold any of your sphincters shut. In space, no one can hear you fart. Historically, 18 people have been lost to space missions. Of those, 3 actually died in space. The crew of the Soyuz 11, after 23 days in space, died on their way home to Earth. They were together in a re-entry vehicle, and a pressure stabilization valve in that craft failed, and they all died immediately. When they landed on Earth a few minutes later, the Russian Space Agency had thought everything went as planned until they opened the door and found all 3 men dead. Of course, they tried CPR, but that was futile. If you're exposed to the vacuum of space, the last thing you'll feel before passing out is the liquid on your tongue boiling away due to the lack of atmospheric pressure. Boiling point's lower in a vacuum. Jim LeBlanc experienced that firsthand in 1965 in a vacuum test chamber. He was rescued in time, thankfully. If you're not rescued on time, your skin and the tissue below it will swell up. But your insides will stay together because your skin is nice and tough. It's like a big leather bag for your guts. Meanwhile, the blood passing through your lungs won't pick up oxygen because it's not there, and that lack of oxygen will blue screen your brain in about 15 seconds. After about a minute, your circulation will have effectively stopped, and if you're not rescued within a couple of minutes, you're screwed. And if your fellow astronauts don't drag you back on board their craft, there won't be any decomposition because of the lack of oxygen, because all the germs died with you. If you're in an area that's relatively warm, like low Earth orbit, you'll end up mummifying. You'll turn into like a stale beef stick. If you're near cold, you'll freeze. By the way, if you die for some other reason and your suit remains intact, you will decompose inside that suit. As long as the oxygen lasts, the bacteria that went in there with you will thrive on your remains. At the end of the oxygen, respiration leads to fermentation. That's when the anaerobic bacteria take over, and they continue to consume your body's resources until they're out of substrate. That's right, you're substrate now. After that, your partially decomposed body will drift around space, probably forever, or at least until it bumps into something. But that is going by the information that we currently know, and it employs that assumption that nothing can survive the vacuum and the cold and the radiation and the whatnot of space. To that, the water bear says, poo-poo to you! This critter, also called a tardigrade, he likes water bear better too, is an animal that grows to about ½ millimeter long and looks nothing like a bear. They are kind of cute though. In fact, I'm gonna order a stuffed toy version for my kid. Amazon link in the description. The water bear has a little bean-shaped body and 8 legs and a really weird mouth. Nobody's found a respiratory system, and it's assumed that it does gas exchange over its whole body. They can be found anywhere from a mountaintop to the deepest ocean trenches, and they're found anywhere from the poles to the equator. They're extremophiles. Giggity. They can live in temperatures really close to 1 Kelvin or absolute zero, and they can live as high as 420 Kelvin. They can take the pressure too up to 6 times the pressure of the deepest ocean trench. They can take ionizing radiation in doses 6 times higher than would kill you or me instantly. They can go without food for 30 years. They can't go 30 minutes. They can live through being almost completely dehydrated. They've lived in experiments where they've been frozen in liquid nitrogen and liquid helium, and they can live in space. In 2007, the European Space Agency retrieved water bears from the external surfaces of their Photon M3 satellite. They found a huge number of them actually survived the trip around the world in space. Some of the females went on to lay eggs and have healthy offspring after that. Now, this isn't to say you'll be eaten by tardigrades. They go into this kind of power-saving mode to make it through the whole space trip. But until 2007, we assumed no animal could live in space. We also assumed MySpace would last forever and the 5-second rule was a thing. Also, researchers at MIT have discovered a fungus that is radiophilic. It takes ionizing radiation and turns it into energy, much like regular plants use sunlight through photosynthesis. Also, it's been shown that bacteria UO20 could survive space by forming into a big cluster ball where the outer ones protect the inner ones. They survived outside the International Space Station for 553 days. Lichens can live in space, so can Bacillus pimelus SAFR32. Say that 30 times fast. What happens when we discover space germs? Well, scientists around the world have been scared of this, and there's been a treaty since 1967, and back then that was about the only thing the USA and the Russians could agree on. According to the treaty, no astronaut could knowingly or neglectfully bring space germs back to Earth or leave Earth germs in space. Digression aside, it's totally plausible that there'd be a space being we don't know about yet that could thrive on the rotting hulk we left out in space. But for now, as far as we know, you'd just be a big old hunk of space jerky. Regardless, either way, you're gonna pass out in 15 seconds from no oxygen, so you're not really gonna care. The worst situation will be floating out on your own away from your spaceship in a perfectly functional spacesuit with no tether and no jetpack. You'd basically just orbit Earth until your oxygen runs out, which would be hours. Plus, you'll likely be spinning the whole time, completely weightless, and nothing you do is gonna stop that spinning. If you don't puke in your helmet, it might drive you crazy enough to just want to smash the glass and get it over with fast. Favorite solution to this problem is just don't go to space. What about you? Would you go to space? Thanks for watching. If you hated this video, give me an ironic thumbs up. By the way, if you have a question you'd like me to address, leave it in the comment section. We're here twice a week, usually, with new stuff. On the screen's another video YouTube thinks you'll like and links to our other Legion of Weirdos channels. And until next time, stay weird and stay out of the comfort zones.